Hey loves, it's Britt, and in this video I'm talking about natal Venus in the second house. So, continuing my Venus through the natal houses series. Now, this is a very strong placement. This is, I would consider, a fortunate placement to have in your natal chart when you have Venus in the second house. Now, the second house, when you're learning astrology, or at least it was like this for me, where I feel like there's a lot of focus on the 12th house. It's like, ooh, scary. There's a lot of focus on the first house, me, and like the eighth house, oh, so dark and mysterious. But when we're talking about some of the more practical houses, like the second or even the sixth, I feel like there isn't as much, really good content, or, sometimes when you're studying it, you end up, studying these other houses more and like, missing the amazing giftedness of your second house placement. So we're going to go right into it in this video. So Venus naturally rules the second house. So this is one of these, naturally gifted energies because there is a real affinity between Venus and the second house. Now, not that everything in your life to do with love and financial things, everything represented by Venus, right? Love, self-worth, feminine energy, receiving, and also, yeah, like financial things and values, what we value. And that's all to do with, the second house as well. But, if Venus is in a sign that maybe it doesn't do so well in, it's not like everything to do with Venus or to do with the second house is going to be like a breeze, but it definitely does show that self-worth has been developed in previous lifetimes. And also it shows that there has been lifetimes already working on Venus issues, working through, and you can look at the sign of Venus, you can look at the sign on the second house cusp and what is going on in the rest of the second house. But with Venus there has been work done. The second house is really a house showing our giftedness, a house showing an energy that's really, strong in us, really something that we value. It's a really solid energy for us, even more than like the first house, because with the first house, we're kind of like, expressing it. It's a more outward energy, and, we're kind of learning how to be that along with the ascendant. And then with the second house, it's like, we know how to be this. Like, this is a very natural part of us. So with Venus here, it's like, we naturally know how to be loving. There could even be financial giftedness in a way, although with Venus in the second, you can also see people that are very spendy or very extravagant with money, because when you look at a planet in the second house, like, for example, Saturn, it, tends to be very stingy, and then a planet like Venus or Jupiter tends to be very spendy. Now, if Venus is in a sign like Capricorn, that may not be so, but in general, there's a more easygoing kind of flow nature to do with financial things, which usually does end up working out well for the person. So, yeah, other gifts here and abilities with Venus in the second house is there can be artistic ability with Venus in the second house. There's really an eye for like design and like using the right colors, form, like there can be this real ability for like decorating, or even our personal appearance can be very beautiful. And it's not like the energy of Venus in the first of like this like natural beauty of like Venus coming through the first house of self. It's like this beauty of, being able to adorn ourselves in the right way, with the right jewelry, the right clothing, the right makeup, the right, like, it's like we know how to use these sort of more physical or tangible aspects in order to create beauty. So of course for women, that can be seen in like makeup and adornments and like clothing and things like that. But for men, there also is a very good sense of style. And men with Venus in the second house too, they can be more concerned with like clothing and like wearing the right colors that like suits their like their appearance than other men. Like it's kind of like a placement that is really good for like fashion sense and like, yeah, like I said, they have an eye for like the right colors that like bring out their, their features. And like, so there can be a real emphasis on like beauty and style here. And there's actually, because wherever Venus is too, there's a pleasure in that. So it's like a giftedness because it's the second house, it's our resources, it's like energy that we've developed in a past lifetime that we're carrying forward, like that are going to be a big part of our values and our like material, like grounded self, right? But also it's like we take pleasure in it. We take pleasure in whatever our Venus is. So with Venus in the second house, there's definitely a pleasure in creating beauty and also, yeah, like design and artistic. Like the thing with Venus in this kind of Venus ruled house is that there's a great sensation based energy with Venus. So it's like they can really feel music. This is actually common placement for musicians. They can like hear all the different tones and notes, and like there's a real giftedness with that. And so the artistic ability can extend to that, and also like with the colors and like also with Venus in the second house, we're going to really take pleasure in everything to do with the senses, like eating a gourmet meal. Maybe we're really good at cooking, or maybe we really enjoy going out to a 5-star dinner and like enjoying every course and like really being in the sensation of eating. Like, so I'm talking about all the senses here, and this is like something that's really natural. And they might not even see it as a gift. They might not even see it as like, oh, I'm gifted with the sensations and the pleasure of life. Like they might just think, oh, isn't everybody like that? But no, like with people with Venus in the second house, it's like a way of life. It's like a way of being here, is like living through the senses, taking pleasure, taking enjoyment through every sense, right? So, smell, like that beautiful walking through a garden. I mean, they're going to just absolutely have a spiritual experience, have a pleasurable experience love, like walking through a garden and smelling like all these fragrant flowers, and like eating this like 5-star meal or this home cooked meal. Like they're just, oh my God, they're going to love it. And like adorning themselves with the perfect right clothes that like accentuate their features. They're going to just love that. And so the gifts of Venus, and then also the sound, right? And then the sights and everything, right? Venus does really well here, right? And it really gets to, in a sense, fully express itself in the like Taurian second house way that Venus gets to be expressed. Now you have to modify this for the sign that it's in, because the sign that Venus is in is going to be the pleasure. It's going to be what they're enjoying. It's going to be what they're valuing. It's going to be the basis of their self-worth and where it comes from. So like you have to modify it based on the sign. Like, for example, like a Venus in Capricorn, like I said, they're going to love the real down to earth. Like you could even see them doing some type of physical, like earthy work, but at the same time, like rising to the top in it in that Capricornian fashion. They love success. They love working hard. They're going to just love doing anything practical Capricornian, anything in the public too, like with Venus in the second house and Capricorn. So you have to kind of modify it, with whatever aspects it's making and also the sign that it's in, but it's going to manifest differently in each sign. But it is generally a very favorable position, and it's something that, like I said, you might not realize how gifted you are, how lucky this placement is. So with financial things with Venus in the second house, like I said, there can be an extravagance, there can be a real joy and pleasure in spending money. And even if Venus is in a more stingy sign, there can still be a real focus and value in the material side of life. So people with Venus in the second house might be accused of being overly materialistic. Now, they need to ignore that, because this is one of their gifts, is dealing with the material side of life. And someone with Venus in the second house that hasn't sorted that area out, they're still searching for it. They need to realize that their self-worth, it comes from within. This is already inherent in who they are. Their beauty's already inherent in who they are, but they are here to master the physical realm, the material realm. This is a financial lifetime. This is a lifetime where they're actually gifted and they're meant to focus on the more material side of life. They are allowed to enjoy material possessions, and they do. Like, they're going to enjoy owning things. They're going to enjoy accumulating possessions. Like, they're going to enjoy shopping. They're going to enjoy the exchange of material, and they can be very gifted in it. They can be very good in business. They can be very good financially. They definitely are meant to focus on this area. So they need to, take away any any belief that, like, these areas, these financial areas, these more grounded areas are less valuable than the spiritual areas of life. Like, Venus in the second house, this is a financial lifetime. It's okay to indulge. It's okay to enjoy, and it's okay to focus and spend time and work hard to accumulate resources in your life, as long as you're knowing that that's not where your value comes from, right? Which would be the shadow side. An afflicted Venus in the second house, it's they're going to seek outwardly through finances, through resources, what can only be found within, right? So also with love matters, because Venus does represent love, and this of course will be modified by the sign that Venus is in. There is a more conservatism with love. There's a less showy placement of Venus here when we have Venus in the second house. We're not going to be overtly affectionate if we don't know that we're going to receive back what we feel we deserve. So the second house, it is kind of a more inward house. It is almost a more introverted kind of energy. So they're very good at attracting, what they want and what they need to them, but they also can be especially, what's the word? Like, they're not overly outward in their Venus expression. So they can seem more shy. They're not actually shy. It's just a very self-contained energy when we have Venus in the second house. And that's good. They don't have to go out of their way for things like love or money. But in one sense, it's like they might be almost like too self-fulfilled to seek outwardly a relationship. The thing with Taurus energy, the thing with second house is it's a very much self-contained energy, and it's like, self, like, resources, rather than like opposed to the eighth house, which is like seeking intimacy with another, right? Or shared resources. This is like, so with Venus in the second house, on the downside, I think that they can be a little bit too in their own bubble and, waiting for the person to come to them, when in some situations, in some instances, it may be better to take the step forward and send the text message, or, say hi to the person that you think is attractive, because I'm sure they think you're attractive too. With your Venus in the second house, you're housing Venus in such a solid place of your identity, in your wheel, like, that you are a truly Venusian personality. So the things that you want, the things that you desire are going to come to you. But sometimes, you can get out of your bubble and approach the world with Venus in the second house. So I'd love to know your experience of this placement. If you have it in your natal chart, what has it been like for you? I'd love to know. Last thing I should mention, you guys, is like, Venus in the second house can be earning money through artistic pursuits, right? That's another thing we should mention here in the second house, is that the career may be something beauty related. It may be like music, it may be art, it may be fashion. I mean, I guess I did talk about the fashion, but I said this is a gift, but this is actually a way to make money as well. with Venus in the second house. Yeah, so anyways, I'd love to know your experiences of this placement. If you have it in your natal chart, let me know. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Talk soon. Bye.